What is going on, everyone?
Ron, I'm going to pass out.
Yeah,
I'm going to
so
pass out.
our
Ron, I
context
joke.
here.
Yeah, you do that. You do your thing. Dude, you go.
Yeah. Zach's gonna. We'll let Zach breathe for a moment because we're all here for the stream. Because as we saw earlier, Sean Reynolds went to the Yokohama Bay Stars, and that is what's drawing this buzz. Just kidding. All right, here's the real reason. You guys know it. The polar bear is making a polar plunge to the Baltimore Orioles. 5 years, $155 million. It's almost like it felt like it was being spoken into the existence. The amount of times we talked about it with the guys down there. I'm just chilling, like having my afternoon coffee, Zach. I'm trying to get my day together. We knew that, like, of course, they'll make a move when we leave. But
Every
Zach,
time.
you were screaming at the top of your lungs calling me about 10 minutes ago. You there?
I'm back. Am I back?
You're back. Are you okay?
I'm trying. For all those who don't know, so I texted Ryan earlier today. I said, "Hey, I'm heading out to Ohio." I was like, "I'm sure a move's going to happen." I said, "This time I'm stopping in a Burger King parking lot instead of a McDonald's parking lot." Ryan, talk about speaking it into existence. Look what the first thing off the highway was. We spoke it into existence. We're in a Burger King parking lot. I'm going to be very real with everyone. I don't know what state I'm in. It's maybe West Virginia. It's maybe Maryland. But I know one thing for sure, Ryan. Pete Alonso, the polar bear, we're polar plunging into the harbor. Rocco DeSangro, go get it done. Pete Alonso's an Oriole. Like Pete Alonso, we're screaming. I think I'm actually on a mountaintop. So we're screaming it from a mountaintop. Pete Alonso's an Oriole. Unreal. What is going on? I mean, Ryan, they Mike Elias, talk about being doubted. Look, we even got some snow here for the polar plunge.
Okay. It was meant to be. And here's the thing. I actually just said in the video, I'm going to pull up the tweet real quick. So over under 3 seconds, you know how we do it here on the Ryan Ripken Show. If you're new to the channel, by the way, hit that like and subscribe button. We're based out of Baltimore. We talk a lot of football, but baseball is our backbone. And the winter meetings is happening, going on, about to finish. And we have a strong backbone in Baltimore. And whammy, the biggest move then of the offseason that was actually because Kyle Schwarber, you expected him to go to the Phillies. This we didn't know, and now we do. Right, Jeff Passan, if you see the Passan notification, you know it's true. First baseman Pete Alonso on the Baltimore Orioles finalized a 5-year, $155 million contract, and Alonso's leaving the Mets and joining the AL East. And here's the thing. Zach, I thought maybe it was going to take $35 million or $40 million, but really what happened is Alonso and Boris, they wanted to see, here was Schwarber's deal for $150, which the Orioles went up to. They wanted more money than that. And the other part is they wanted a 5-year deal. And so I know that Oriole fans have been very critical of Mike Elias in the front office, which at times I think they deserved. Last year, there's opportunities that were missed, but other times I said, look, let this ownership and front office get settled. Last year was their first offseason figuring it out, and they meant what they said. They were going to be aggressive. And, Zach, I don't know other way to say how they haven't been aggressive. You just landed the best right-handed bat on the market, and it's not even close. This isn't just a tiny move. This is a lineup-altering, game-changing player that's coming to Baltimore, and I believe they're not done. But initially, everyone we talk to in the baseball world, especially the analysts, Sean Casey, Harold Reynolds, John Morosi, this week, they all say Pete Alonso is one of the most undervalued bats. And now, not only did you keep him away from the Red Sox, you're having him join the Baltimore Orioles, and you feel that this team, you wanted liftoff, Zach? I think liftoff is engaged in Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the meme a million times. There's a polar bear in Arlington. Screw that. There's a polar bear in Baltimore. And Ryan, I like how you put it there because this is a double whammy. You know, not only, yes, Pete Alonso to the Baltimore Orioles takes this lineup to a different stratosphere. They now have protection for Gunnar, for guys like Basayo, for Adley. You have that big RBI guy. We're talking about RBIs. Hey, Taylor Ward just got over 100. The Orioles over the past month, how about adding 23 RBIs to your lineup? That'll play, Ryan. That'll play. Make the guys around you better. It takes the Orioles lineup to a different stratosphere, but it keeps the Red Sox lineup at the moment where it was. Because you brought up, if the Red Sox in the big green monster, Pete Alonso and that monster, they would have been best buddies for 5 years. And I'll tell you this, it would have won a lot of games in Boston. So double whammy. The Orioles get Pete Alonso. I was kind of worried once Diaz went to the Dodgers that now the Mets have more money. Are they going to play around with it more? Maybe just say, screw it, up the offer on Pete. Right. I don't know if maybe it's because I'm outside and everything. I'm shaking still. These are the moments that, as people who cover love instant reactions, that we live for, that we do this for. This is crazy. This is crazy. Like we talked about it so much. People will bring up the defense. Harold Reynolds said it best. Put him next to the base. Sean Casey talked about it. He goes, okay, he lets a few balls by him. He's one of the best pickers in the league. He's going to save runs that way. But like I said, okay, he lets 15 runs in because he didn't get to a diving ball to his right that many times. He drove in 120. That's 105 net positive RBIs. The Baltimore Orioles, you want to talk about a team that is going for it. Like you don't do this if you're just playing around. So many people, God, my Twitter comments the past few days, every time the Orioles were mentioned in Alonso, mentioned in Schwarber, mentioned in Tucker, it was, they're not serious. Oh, they're just being used for leverage. The Orioles aren't serious. They're just trying to get their names out there. Classic Mike Elias. You want classic Mike Elias? How about going out there and making the big deal? I mean, this takes that Orioles lineup for 162 games. We talk about, Ryan, what's the best ability?
Availability.
Pencil him into the 4 spot for 162 games. Pencil Gunnar into the 3 spot for 162 games. Let's go to work.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I want to say this. If it doesn't work out for 5 years, it doesn't work out, right?
Don't care.
But I think, I want
banners
people
fly forever.
But the thought was, when I've said, and this isn't even trying to be a homer, Zach, I think we do a good job of being objective. I think actually for me, even though people don't want to hear it, understanding circumstances last year. And yeah, there were times where they maybe could have been more aggressive, but you're trying to figure out your front office. Plus, you have young players that you want to give more run to, see what they have. And you know what happened? You learned you had to reset your management on your big league side. So you reset there, and then you had to identify, do our young players have enough right now to carry us? And the answer was no, they didn't have enough help last year to do it. Now, they had a lot of issues last year, but then they said, you know what? We have to keep up in the AL East. And they did it. And I don't think they're done, by the way, Zach. People have asked me, where's this going to happen next? And we'll dive into what this means, because I don't know if you guys know, there's a logjam at first base here for the Baltimore Orioles, but it's not even about that. It's not. This is more so of proving they said they had an objective this offseason, and so far they've checked every single box at the moment. At the moment, except one high-end starter, which still hasn't happened yet, but so far you got a closer, you got the big power bat, you got a right-handed outfielder that plays every day. This is the Orioles going for it. And you know what, Zach? I'm happy for the fan base for that. And I understood the frustration too, by the way. When we talk about this, hold on for a second. Hey, Zach, come here. When we talk about this,
ruin the news.
Yeah. When we talk about this, I got why fans were so mad. Is because you're seeing other teams spend money. Why can't we do that in Baltimore? And you're frustrated. And the frustration goes back to 42 years of not winning the championship, not even being in the Fall Classic, and you're wondering, are we going to go back into this downslope? This is a new age for the Orioles. And Pete, whether this contract works out or not, I think will be an indication that they are willing to do more moves like this. Mm-hmm. But for the short term, I mean, Zach, about posting up stats, I did this up yesterday. I might pull up the Sean Casey clip in a second. Oh, wrong one. Hum now. Off. Look at Pete Alonso's stats, Zach. I mean, if we're going to look at that closely, the dude averages 40 jacks a year. In his last 4 seasons, he's had 118 or more in 3 of those 4. The Orioles had 68 RBIs, led their team last year. And so when we're looking at the landscape of this, and for the Mets, though, I saw a comment, Zach. We'll end with this, and I'll go get to the Mets, and then get to what else could happen here in Baltimore. New to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. But Zach, look at the games played for Pete Alonso, dude. Like this isn't a move that no platoon's going on here. This dude's going to be in your lineup every single night, and I think that is what the Orioles needed. They needed a guy, set it and forget it. Polar Bear is going to be in there no matter what.
Yeah. And Ryan, just real fast to go back to kind of something you alluded to earlier. So, yes, in 5 years, maybe Pete Alonso is not hitting 40 home runs. Maybe he's not driving in 120 runs. That is what it takes to get a superstar in the moment. You have to say, hey, we talked to John Morosi, if you guys have heard of him, insider, talked to him on the show yesterday, and he said, hey, teams like the Orioles right now, you need to overpay a little bit. Not really overpay, but you have to get a little uncomfortable maybe in years. The Mets, very publicly, it was known, they weren't willing to go more than 3. That was kind of where they were at. They wanted 3 years for Pete. The Orioles said, hey, we will take the risk because that's what it is. Yes, this is awesome for 2026. We'll see how this works out in 2030. We'll see what it's like in 2030. But what I do know is John Morosi talked about you need to make these deals now so that you can get maybe, quote unquote, better market value for other guys later. Prove that you're willing to spend. Prove that you've got a lineup. I'm telling you one thing. We want to talk about maybe what this means, a domino effect. Think Ranger Suarez, you think Framber Valdez, think some of those free agent pitchers. Now they're looking at Baltimore. They're going, wow. Signed Ryan Helsley. You already had a young nucleus. Then you're going out, you're spending big for Pete Alonso. Making a trade for a guy with 100 RBI season. They're involved in all this trade market. They're still involved in, obviously, the pitching market. You're sending a message that, hey, we're not messing around. And I think that's what you have to do to then get market value down the line. So I think this deal is a changing of the guard in Baltimore. Maybe this doesn't impact this season necessarily, talking about, oh, everyone wants to go to Baltimore. But the more you pay guys big contracts, the more you're involved, the more you get in with these agents and being like, hey, we're serious spenders. You're not hitting up Scott Boras at, whatever time, 10 o'clock at night saying, oh, we'll offer 120 million for this guy. You're offering, above market value. Suddenly you're taken more seriously. I had to get out of the car because I had to stand up. I'm sorry. This is we're getting excited here. Burger King for the Kings of the East now, the Baltimore Orioles. Not really. Still work to be done. But I mean, this is a start. This is what they needed to do. This was the first big step. I believe it's the second biggest contract the Orioles have ever given out behind only Chris Davis. Hey, I just want to go publicly on the record. I take back every comment I made about Pete Alonso being a try-hard in the home run derby and taking that away from Trey Mancini. I love that he tries hard in the home run derby. That's fun. I love a guy like that. So
yeah, you want that guy on your team. should put him
Yeah,
on our team
exactly.
then.
You know, never said a bad word about him trying too hard in the home run derby. I actually love how hard he goes in the home run derby. And yes, I was actually just about to say, if you want to pull up this pass and tweet, this is the buzz now going around Major League Baseball. This isn't, yes, we like to be objective, but yes, I mean, obviously, I'm going to have some more fan bias and stuff. I can sit here and go, hey, the Orioles have one of the best lineups in the league now. That's my opinion. When a guy like Jeff Passan, who's in touch with every single team around baseball, is saying something like that, that means word's getting around. Like the Orioles are being noticed. And I think that this just sets them up to make more moves. I don't think they're done. I know you've said it before, but I don't think they're done. But Ryan, maybe let's get into what this means for the New York Mets.
Yeah, we'll get into it for the Mets here. No doubt a booted here. And if you're new to the channels, hit the like and subscribe button. So we got a little bit of the Ryan Ripken Media crossover here. So the Ryan Ripken Show, we're live Mondays through Fridays in January because, Zach, I got to go away tomorrow. A little bit of
Today.
personal little vacay. I'm glad this happened today while I'm gone. But going into the new year, Monday through Friday, we'll be live. But then during baseball season, after every Orioles home game, Kevin and Zach React is going to be live talking about just the Orioles. Ryan Ripken Show, we're going to be talking a whole lot of baseball. Kevin and Zach React are going to be with you guys through thick and thin. And you know what? I hope it's a lot of wins. You hope it can't be worse than it was last year. But the other member of Kevin and Zach React, Mr. Kevin Oysterstrucker, is in the background there. Hey, Kev, why don't we bring him on and get his quick reaction, Zach, and then let's talk about the Mets for a second. Yeah. Kevin.
Hello. Can you hear me? Is my mic on?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Wow. The Orioles always do something when I'm doing something, so I guess I just need to do more things. Is what the takeaway is here. I'm pumped, man. This is so awesome. I know obviously like they've needed a guy like this in their lineup. And Ryan, I caught what you were talking about last night, and I don't know if you've said it here already about the Orioles and their RBIs last season, and how Pete's career low was better than anything that they had last year in that department. So I'm excited for it, and hopefully they are not done. There are still guys in the market that can help him. Obviously, as a frontline starter, getting a couple of guys in, but you hear enough names with the Orioles, it's felt like everybody was in with the Orioles and seeing, all right, is this guy going to go there? Is that guy going to go there? And so I think, again, everyone was like, all right, like it's cool to see the name on the interest level, but can they actually move forward and get a deal done with somebody and spend that money? The willingness to spend, it was there this offseason. We know that. And man, do they have polar bears in Baltimore? I guess we could. I mean, now they do, but might have to go to if they have them at the zoo. We might have to go pay homage to newest animal of the Baltimore Orioles, Mr. Polar Bear Pete Alonso. I'm so excited.
Yeah, Polar Bear Pete. And you know what, actually, guys? I'm gonna I'll pull off this tweet to give like the context to this, because yesterday when Kyle Schwarber got moved, when he signed back, we all felt it, and everyone we talked to, Philly seemed like the place. When I talked to Sean Casey about this, it felt like he was the guy to go back. And for those that were mad with the Orioles, the context of that was the Orioles gave the highest offer, and then Schwarber's agent, from what the understanding is, went back to the Phillies to give them the last chance, and they said, yep, we'll match it, done deal. And that was it. So the Orioles set the market, and the Phillies, it was Kyle Schwarber wanted to go back. Pete was the first guy that it was sitting there going, you know what? There was disconnect with New York. He was frustrated with how the contract situation went last year. And then so when you have a frustrated player and you want to prove your worth, have someone commit to you. The Orioles just committed that. They gave the years that most teams didn't want to do. They wanted to give 3 to 4 years. The Orioles gave 5. Pete and his camp, the Boris group, they felt that was what they needed, and now he comes to Baltimore. What it means for the Mets, though, you lose Edwin Diaz, you lose Pete Alonso, which I'm not – the Edwin Diaz part, I'll be honest, I think if you're telling me that Ryan Helsley is $9 million worse than Edwin Diaz and Devin Williams is $6 million worse. I don't buy that. I think that deal was so high. I think Diaz is a stud. But next year, Kevin, if you've heard me say this, any of the closers next year in 26 of the crop could have the best year. Yeah. But the Dodgers, I get it. You went and got the best guy in their minds, and they paid a lot. But for the Mets, huge blow for what you have there. But now you wonder, do they go after Kyle Tucker? Do they make a different move and shift? Because the Phillies and the Braves are going to be very good. And just like we mentioned, Alonso going to any other team in the AL East would have been problematic. Him coming to the Baltimore Orioles, he shifts it. And real quick, before we dive into more of it, I talked to Sean Casey yesterday, right? And we talked about this group. And this was the end part for Sean Casey. Now, we had an 8-minute conversation. We have that video up on the channel. But, guys, here's Pete Alonso, or here's Sean Casey on MLB Network with us. I'm sorry. MLB Network analyst Sean Casey was on yesterday with me talking about why he loves Pete Alonso so much. So let's listen to that, and we'll react on the other side.
Bo on the Alonso thing.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go find 40 and 120? You know what I mean?
So who else is out there right now on this list? So Kyle Tucker, we're talking about, bats that you know it can do, but Kyle Tucker, different player.
Right.
I still like Tuck a lot. Lefty bat, though, but right-handed bat, Alonso's the guy.
Alonso's the guy, dude. Alonso is going to drive. That's what I mean. Like, well, and also, too, defensively, I think as a first baseman, my job is to make those guys those guys that are great athletes, hey, make the play, get the ball over to me. Yeah. So my job is really, if I go to my right or not, who cares? I got to be able to pick the ball in the dirt.
Can you be the target? Can you say?
Go look at the numbers. He's by far the best scooper in the league. For me, that's got to play elite defense, but they don't factor that in on the DRS and all that stuff. So they go, well, he's a below average defender. Okay, so he lets 15 runs in that he doesn't get the balls to his right during a year. He drives in 120. So take 15 away from 120, there's 105. He's driving in 105 runs more than he's letting in. Like, let's stop with the whole, hey, he's not good defensively. I don't care. My corner outfielders, corner infielders, I need them to drive in runs. What Pete Alonso does, I don't know why teams are like, well, stop that crap. This guy hits 40 homers and 120. Show me other guys that are doing that every year, and he plays 162. That's a skill. The best ability is availability. The bottom line is that's a skill to play 162 mentally and physically. He's not feeling 100% all the time. So it does fire me up, the conversation about Pete Alonso and the defense. Stop that crap. Get this guy on your team. If you want 40 and 120, book him for 5 years.
So right there, a little whammy action. Also, Sean Casey's amazing. Just the energy. We might have to put him on the Ryan Ripken show and Ryan Ripken media team in the future. But guys, like, you hear that fire. A lot of the former players love what Pete brings to a team. Now, what it means moving forward, is that a question, Zach, or is that?
I just wanted to, Sean kind of posed a question at the beginning of that. Just wanted to give a quick answer from what I understand. He asked, where can you find 40 and 120? I believe Camden Yards next year. So hope that helps him. Fired up, Ryan. Just happy to be here. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. And for those that I see someone say, who was that guy? That was Sean Casey's MLB Network analyst. And if you want to look up Sean Casey highlights, Sean Casey had an unbelievable big league career. Not going to be a Hall of Famer, but he had 130 jacks, had a 302 average, and played 12 years in the bigs. He's a career 300 hitter in the big leagues. So Case understands the game. And he's full of energy, by the way. He's like Kevin on steroids, Just kidding. But overall, I saw some questions in here about what the next step will be for the team. I'll get into that, but I did want to get to a couple right now of, are the Orioles fine or what, from the channel members here for the group. Are the Orioles fine? They've always been fine. Every day.
You're going to make me say it. You're going to make me say it.
And then welcome Daniel White to the channel members. Appreciate you guys. Now, when we get into the pitching side, and Kev, I'm sure this is going to be a question that people are wondering here. And thank you, John, for the Super. What does this mean?
Thank you, John.
For Mayo? Because the Orioles have a logjam, but they still need pitching, Kevin.
Yes, they do. Did
you see that the Orioles were in the trade market for a couple pitchers? Did you see that one?
Yes, I did. And, hearing you talk about Mackenzie Gore last night got me fired up, especially because with and I'm with you. I'm like, I don't know why the Nationals would move off of him, because I also am probably higher. I don't know what the industry consensus is on. Did you get a sense at winter meetings, Ryan, what the industry consensus on Mackenzie Gore is, just about like how they feel about him?
Yeah, I mean, look, down there, by the way, for the winter meetings, what I'd like to do, Zach knows, I like to shake some hands, kiss some babies, but I like to talk to people, and I like to hear what's happening and how they think. So I got a chance to talk to different teams and organizations and see what their thought process and how they assess players. But overall consensus is on a guy like Gore. And I know people don't like it, Kevin, because, Ryan, we need a guy that he's a surefire guy to the rotation, which, like, look, right now, the most consistent one that I would take that has the least red flags and worries is Ranger Suarez.
Well, and actually, to that point, I don't know if you saw Andy Koska's tweet, but he says the Alonso signing does not end the Orioles' interest in Ranger Suarez, among others, per a source. So
if I were to say what would happen here, Kev, well, I'll finish with the Gore, and then I'll go from there. Why Cabrera and Gore is linked out there, and this is any team, but why Baltimore? They're trying to look at it of how do we get an upside guy that could be a top 3, top 2 pitcher in a rotation with team control, where we don't have to spend money at least for another couple years, big money. And then we can still go out and get one guy. Like going to trade for a guy, like this is how you use your prospects. Gore has, I think, 2 years left. Edward Cabrera has 4, I think. And so when you're looking at this, the upside's undeniable. Now, Gore has strikeout stuff, but is a little bit more inconsistent. So teams are wondering what side of that. So when you're looking at the industry, it really depends on the team. Do you buy that Gore's going to figure it out? Because he is still young. And Edward Cabrera, people were saying the exact same thing. And then this year, he had a 3.53 ERA. And Kevin, I don't know if you heard this last night with Edward Cabrera, but do you know how many pitchers had an ERA below 4 in baseball?
Yes, year? I do. Well, before you said below 4, so 16, right?
I think it was 17. I said. You're listening.
All right. Okay. Okay.
So in all of baseball last year, I'm sorry, there was 17 below that. There was 30 total. 30 total pitchers in all of baseball had an ERA below 4. So consider that's ones for each staff on a major league team. In that list was Edward Cabrera with a 3.53 ERA. Now, injuries, elbow, he'll probably spend time on the IL. Every pitcher does nowadays. But Cabrera started to make that turn. I still think the upside of a lefty of Gore is there. But if we're looking at between Gore and Cabrera, I think Gore's upside is scary. But I do think for your roster construction, getting Cabrera and Ranger Suarez seems very obtainable as well. So that's the part there. But Gore is young. If I'm the Nats, I think the price point for Cabrera is lower than Gore. I think that's what I'm hearing, Kev, is that Gore would take a little bit more because the Nats don't have to give him up. The Marlins kind of want to give Cabrera up. The Nats don't need to. So that's at least the thought right there. But that means then, Kev, there's a logjam there at first base.
Yes, there is.
Sorry, I'll give my opinion.
One of those guys.
I was going to say, so I'll give my opinion in a second. I'm currently looking through my bookmarks to find that video of Justin Bieber saying it's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, so I can say Mike Elias this offseason.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, Kevin, it just got silent, and I thought people were looking at me, and I was like, so.
No, Ryan was talking about trading.
Well, I knew the conversation, but everyone went silent, and I thought that you guys were waiting for. I was like, that's why I was like, My bad.
Well, okay, yes, but do you have an opinion, Zach, on Kobe Mayo?
Kevin, who's this guy?
I don't know. He wants to talk about Justin Bieber. I guess this is a Justin Bieber stream now.
Well, no, I'm talking about Mike Elias, and it's not clocking to the haters that he's standing on business. That was the point I was getting out there.
Well,
you know?
is it?
I'm glad we
is it,
brought that to full
yeah.
full
Is
turn
it
here.
clocking to you that the Orioles might trade Kobe Mayo?
Well, I mean, let's be honest. It's this. We're at the point right now. I'll stop searching my bookmarks. It's at the point now where, with the logjam, with the needs of the team, unfortunately, something's got to give. Like, you can't have 3 first basemen. And to make matters worse, this isn't like you have Ryan O'Hearn as one of them, where it was kind of you played off each other where, hey, one's a lefty, one's a righty. You kind of can do maybe a little platoon. You have some diversity there. You have 3 power hitting righty first basemen. That's where we're at right now. Like that's where the roster is. So you have to, use your abundance there, especially if you're going to allow Basayo or let Basayo get reps at first. You have to trade away guys. And the unfortunate part of the business, if you want talent, you have to give up talent. We say it every time when we talk about, especially at the trade deadline for football, for baseball. If you're going to get talent, you got to give up talent. I still am a believer in Kobe Mayo. I've made that pretty clear throughout the season. I think Kobe Mayo is going to be a very, very, very good first baseman. And I think he's going to hit for a lot of power. I think Ryan Mountcastle, when he's hot, can carry an offense and win games with the best of them. We've seen him have 9 RBI games. We've seen him hit multi-homer games. I mean, ask the Toronto Blue Jays about if Ryan Mountcastle can win you a game. But where we're at right now, team construction-wise, with the roster, you got to give up, one of these guys. You can't go into opening day with 3 right-handed hitting first basemen. So they're going to have to go with talent.
It's not going to happen.
It's not. Someone's going to move.
You're factoring also in Sam Basayo is going to play some first base.
Yeah.
And also Pete Alonso might DH some games. Now, the thing that I'm going to be curious about is now what's the DH role going to look like? Because now it gets a little bit muddy. I'm with you, Zach. Kobe Mayo. I still like Mayo and Mountie a lot. I think Mountie can go somewhere else and be an all-star. I think Kobe Mayo has that power potential. But this is what happened last year, unfortunately, is they wanted to see what they had, and they gave their chance to those guys. But they said, we can't wait any longer. We can't see whether they gave him a full run, which, that's another argument for Kobe Mayo. Did you give him full run to develop? He still could be here. But the point being is this is now the hard decisions that you have to make. And that even though the Orioles have brought in a lot of talent, it doesn't mean that
did we lose you, Ryan? Hello?
Oh, I
thought I lose you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, you're back. You're back.
For a sec, but you're back now.
Nice. But so anyway, what I was saying is, the other thing when I talked to some groups and executives is the Orioles last year felt they were very hesitant to give up any of their top guys. Why? They didn't know what they had. But now I think whether they know that or not, they have to make it. They have to make a move. Now, Mountie, I hate hypotheticals, but Kevin, this is your favorite now, so we got to play hypothetical.
It is. Thank you.
Yeah, but the hypothetical is like someone's got to go, and if a team is looking for a more veteran bat, Mountie's the more option that you look at. But then that means you're giving up a higher prospect in the minors, or maybe a couple guys. If you're looking for the high upside prospect that just got to the bigs with a lot of team control, Kobe Mayo going to a team is the one that makes sense. So It really is going to depend on which team. But I think, and we have the poll up right now, what do you think the next move will be by the Orioles? Signing a guy like Framber or Ranger? Is it something else, or trading for a starting pitcher? Kev, it just feels like all things are pointing to a trade. I think they make a trade, and then they sign one more pitcher, and then they're going to kind of close off the book on their big naming signings. The trade isn't a matter of if anymore, Kev. It just seems like it's a matter of when.
Yeah, and it makes sense at this point, and everything you talked about there, and Zach, you too. But like, it essentially is like, yeah, where are the at bats coming from for these guys? And you have to keep everybody happy with making sure that they're getting the at bats that they need, because look, these are professional baseball players, and they want to go out there and produce and contribute. They know their talent level, but you look at the lineup, you factor in Pete there, and you made a decision, which was the correct decision, to bring in a big bat, spend the money, and get a guy in there. I mean, you added essentially 80 homers to your lineup in the last month with Taylor Ward and Pete Alonso. You add that big power ability, but with that does come, there are only 9 spots in that lineup. The MLB is not going to make it a Denver to say the Orioles can play 10 guys in their lineup. There are 9 spots in that lineup. And so it's about making the players that you have happy in situations, but also making the talent that you have work for you, and say, hey, we need to round out our rotation. We need a frontline guy. We need someone that can go and eat innings for us, be effective in those innings, and be a star in our rotation. And we have this surplus of bats. And when a team like Miami or Washington is looking for young talent, maybe a little bit of proven talent too, that's been up at the MLB level for a little bit, depending on whether they want like the veteran in Mountcastle or the young ascending player in Mayo, it does make perfect sense. And I think when everybody talks about the Corbin trade, like people are like, okay, they were always going to make a move, or they're going to make a move, then they trade for Corbin out of nowhere. And I'll remember that day forever, because Zach was sprinting around the studio for like 20 minutes straight after it happened. But that came out of nowhere. Like, we're like, okay, packing up, going home, boom, this happens. It feels like this is a little different this time, where it's almost like we're anticipating something happening and being like, okay, is today the day? Is today? And that's what it felt like with this Alonso thing, where it was like, you see the Orioles in on all these guys, and you're like, well, something just has to give. And Zach and I talked about this all year, and I know Ryan, we all talked about it too. It just felt like after the offseason the Orioles had last year, there was no way they were going to do it again, right? There was no way they weren't going to spend money and add to their team and say, okay, I mean, going through the year and seeing that, yeah, there are missed opportunities, signings didn't work out the way that they wanted to, they didn't, bring in guys that I feel like could have helped the team as much, and it just didn't go according to plan. And so looking at that, Mike Elias has built good baseball teams before. We know that, whether you want to go back to Houston or however far you want to go back with Elias, like, he's been a part of those teams. And so I couldn't let myself believe that Mike Elias would just sit on his hands again and do do not a lot, at least not a lot in terms of bringing in a big contract player or 2, or maybe even 3. And so I think that, aside from obviously I think getting another bullpen arm or 2 would go a long way for this team, as well as getting a starter or 2. They still have more work to do, but I'm just thrilled and ecstatic that, seeing the Orioles, and by the way, keeping them away from Boston is a pretty big deal too, depending on how that situation went. And I know you had talked about it last night, Ryan, about with the AL East, and you talked about it a little bit here too, of like how tough this division is. And if it was a team that got Alonso that wasn't Baltimore, that team was probably going to be the favorite to win the division. And right now you have an opportunity. If you're Baltimore, you've scooped him away from a division rival, and now you have an opportunity to round out a rotation that, Al Bradish, Trevor Rogers, I mean, we can go down that list, et cetera, et cetera. If you can add another frontline guy plus another high quality arm, you're looking really good for next year. And the fact that, Jeff Passan says the Orioles might have the best lineup in baseball, looking at all these guys and how Craig Albernas can use them and go about everyday situations, the versatility I believe that he'll have, and just the pure raw power and the comfortability I think that guys like Gunnar will have and Jackson will have hitting in front of a guy like Pete Alonso is going to be really cool. And going to be a lot of opportunities this year in Baltimore. I can't believe we're doing this stream. Look at us. We're doing a Pete Alonso sign with the Orioles stream.
I know, and really fast, just because Joel Sherman put this out. I see Ven Verlander talking about it. It's being reported the Mets never made an offer, an official offer, to Pete Alonso. And
They burned the bridge.
Yeah.
They pissed them off.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is, that kind of goes back to, Ryan, it felt like, and it's so many of these big-time free agents, if they love a place that they were at, and John Morosi talked about yesterday, so many times you have to, if you're competing with the incumbent team, you have to go above and beyond. That's what happened with Kyle Schwarber. The Orioles gave him the best offer. He was like, boom, done. I like this, but I'm going to see if Philly can give me this. If Philly can't give me this, I'll come back to you guys. We'll make something my people will call your people. This situation, it feels like it was between the Orioles and the Red Sox. The Mets weren't, there was no, okay, hey, we're giving the Mets the final offer. We're giving the Mets the final go ahead. If they can't match it, we'll go from that or go from there. The Orioles were in a bidding war with the Boston Red Sox, it seems like, at least from what it's kind of been the rumors and all. I guess there's no official report to say, hey, it was between those two. But there have been reports that those were the two teams he was meeting with. And that's a massive win for the Orioles. That is a feather in Mike Elias's cap. That is this new front office. That is a big win for them when you're not only outbidding a bigger market like the Red Sox, but this isn't outbidding, the Giants or, like we've talked about with the Padres. This isn't outbidding a team that you got to play 12 times a year, that you're facing for the AL East. So to be able to figuratively and literally put your money where your mouth is and be like, no, we'll give you 5 years, 155. Like, we're willing to do that because we think you add that much to this lineup. I think that helps as well. The Orioles saw an opportunity to strike. They knew that, hey, the Mets are not going to be maybe involved. He's not going to do what Schwarber did, take our offer and hand it to them and accept that. They knew they had an opportunity. They went for it. And as much as you want to talk about the Orioles, Morosi talked about yesterday, if you feel like you're getting maybe good value, you're going to finish second and third perfectly for most of the guys you want. The Orioles went above and beyond. They gave him 5 years when there was rumors that teams only wanted 3 or 4. They said, we'll give you the 5th year if that means you come here. We're okay in 5 years if, hey, you're batting 210, you're hitting 25 homers. It's not really the Pete Alonso we're paying $30+ million for. They're willing to take that risk for the now. We talk about this all the time this offseason. The Orioles making win now moves, and this is another one.
Yeah, and I love what Morosi had to say, Ryan. I don't know if it's out right now, but the one you played last night on essentially him talking about how in order to get to a point where you can, I don't want to say get away with offering market value, you have to overpay for, and honestly, I'm fine with the contract in itself. Like, I don't think it's like this massive overpay for Pete Alonso. I think it's a fine deal. But in order to get to a point where your reputation is like, hey, guys want to come here, guys want to do this, you have to start somewhere. And that is, giving a guy maybe an extra year or a little more money per year, whatever it may be. And so I love that from Morosi, because I think this now starts for the Orioles if they can maybe trade for another guy, or maybe if it is another high-priced signing, I'm not sure. And it's maybe viewed in the industry as a bit of an overpay. I'm okay with that because, the Orioles are using the resources available to them. And as Zach said, making win-now moves. And, maybe over the next 2, 3, 4 years, I'm not saying Baltimore is going to be the destination that New York is or LA is or whatnot ever, because we know we've had that conversation before, but it gives the Orioles a reputation, especially if they're winning games. And even if they're not winning World Series initially, if they're competitive, making the playoffs, high leverage baseball. I mean, it best, right? I mean, guys want to compete, guys want to win. And that's the situation that they want to come into. And especially, if you have a good clubhouse, if the culture is good, if everything lines up, all of a sudden it's not because guys always want money. It is what it is. That's fine. But if guys see that and they're like, oh, I can take a little less to go to a team that's going to compete every season, that is, known as a good clubhouse organization, all those things add up. All of a sudden, it's not you have to maybe give an extra year or that extra money. It's, oh, I'll come here for market value because I want to win and I want to be a part of this team. And I think that with the young guys that they have, with a signing like this and with rounding out their roster, this is a great step, not just for the Orioles in terms of the present, because obviously it is, but I think that this could have more long-term implications. And I can't remember if it was you or Morosi, Ryan, who were talking about it, but there are other examples of that with teams. Like, Toronto, I think, was one of them that was talked about, where, they get Tony last offseason and start winning games and they go to the World Series, and all of a sudden they become really aggressive on Dylan Cease and they're able to secure that contract. And while that still, I think, among the industry was a bit of an overpay, that's usually a guy Toronto finished in second or third for. That was Toronto's thing, is they finished in second and third for everybody. Now they have that reputation. So I think this is huge for Baltimore's present and future, even if Alonso, in 10 years isn't going to be, maybe he will be, maybe he's getting to 5 all the time. I don't know, but I love it. I think this is a really big move for multiple different reasons.
Here's my thing, and maybe you can bookmark this on this or do this. This is kind of what I expect. If I had a choice between who the Orioles would go and trade for, Mackenzie Gore, Edward Cabrera, it's Gore, and I'm not even thinking twice about it. Orioles trade for Gore, the party gets going. I've watched both. I think Cabrera is a really talented guy. I've been thinking about this, Kevin, while you've been talking about where this team's going and how they got to keep up in the AL East and how you're trying to keep youth with upside. You just made a deal with a Boris client too. I think Gore is a Boris guy. The Orioles have a lot of those guys, by the way. Gore, to me, when I'm looking at the Nats are in that weird spot where they need youth, but they also need guys that can go out and play. The Marlins are in that funky spot where do you do a 1-for-1? I don't see a 1-for-1. People are saying Mayo for Cabrera. I have a hard time seeing that 1-for-1. I think you'd have to give way more from what Cabrera can bring to what Mayo hasn't proven yet. So Gore, man, if I was making a really big push, I think Gore's the guy. So that's what my gut's saying. In my plums, Mackenzie Gore's the guy. And we'll see if that happens. The Orioles and Nats have never made a trade. In 2026 or 2025, I should say, this might be it. This might be it here in Baltimore. And if it does happen, guys, that move, and I'm going to say it right now, Gore's ability and upside can be a number one. That's his upside.
Yeah.
Scary thing, he's not there yet, but he doesn't have to be. I think the best part of what just happened so far is that no longer do the young players feel like they have to be the leaders now. Kyle Bradish will be back. He'll be the ace. Pete Alonso is going to be the bopper on the offensive side. Taylor Ward will also be a part of that. Gunnar now will be expected to be the guy, but he doesn't have to be the everything anymore. Oh, and then, by the way, Jordan Westberg was already comfortable being the guy that just produces. So now the pressure's off Sam Basayo, off Adley Rutschman. If you keep Kobe Mayo, it's off Kobe Mayo. Like, this move changes so many things for the infrastructure of the Baltimore Orioles. And by the way, guys, the AL East is the best division in baseball, and it's not even close. It's not even close because the Yankees don't rebuild, they retool. Same with Boston. Toronto was the one team in the middle. Now Toronto's like, screw it. Oh, you think teams spend money? Well, we're going to show you what spending money is all about. I wouldn't be surprised if they go get Kyle Tucker because I think that Toronto roster-wise could rival anybody in the American League. You could say they could rival almost a lot of teams except the Dodgers. So this shifts so much for the organization. And it also, above all, Kevin, Zach, this gives hope back to a fan base. And I wanted to preface this. I understand my goal for people out there, for fans, I get why you're pissed off last year. You had this great 23, solid 24, and you still had the chance to make a run and you didn't. But you still made the postseason. Most wins over a 3-year stretch in the American League, 22 to 24. And then you feel like you missed an opportunity. But the window wasn't closed. And for a lot of reasons, when a new ownership or group comes in, one thing that I appreciated that they didn't go out and make a rush decision just because they wanted to spend. They didn't go and do it. They did their homework, and they saw Now we know what we have to do. We know what young guys we can depend on and who we can't. And we also know if we want to win the American League East, the blueprint now we got to spend. We got to trade. They see it all. They're doing it. So right now, the only thing that they haven't checked off that list, Kevin, if I believe, is a starting pitcher. High-end guy, right, Zach? Am I missing something there? It's the only one.
Yeah, and I was going to just actually bring this up because John Morosi, even after agreeing to terms with Pete Alonso, sources say the Orioles remain engaged with the top-end starting pitching market, kind of what we just talked about. Orioles have talks with free agent left-handed pitcher Framber Valdez. So that, job's not finished. And, the rotation has to be, or the mindset has to be that for these guys. You still need depth. I heard John Morosi talk about it last night. Do you guys know how many starting pitchers started a game for the Los Angeles Dodgers last year?
13.
17.
I was gonna say 17. Yeah, you can't tell me I wasn't.
But 17, you need pitching. Guys, remember in 2024, Corbin Burns, Kyle Bradish, Grayson Rodriguez, we were going on shows before the season. We're like, wow, they have 9 pitchers that could all be in the rotation. Like, they have so much depth. Then by the end of it, it was, man, this team, they had to trade for Zach Eflin. They had to make moves. Pitching depth is never a bad thing. You need as many pitchers as you can get, and you need as many good pitchers as you can get. Job's not finished. Go finish the roster. I will say I'm going to make the move from my computer because it's on 2% to my phone, and so I will catch you guys in a minute.
No.
Yeah, we'll do a little housekeeping here for a quick second, Kevin. Cora, appreciate you. Another channel membership. Appreciate you. I see Kieran been a channel member even though Kieran, you've been here for a while, but we had to shift over. This is something that only happens in the show. And it's Kieran, but if we ask Rocco, it's Karan. Yeah. Good kid, Rocco, sometimes. And then are the O's fine, Zach? You know what? Print it.
Put it on a shirt.
Yeah, put it on a shirt. Hey, Kev, come here. Little zoom out. You like that? Hey, come right here. Boom. It's the AL East, every team's got their strengths. The Yankees is their starting rotation. The Blue Jays is actually just their lineup. They're gritty. They're tough. They've added good pitching. Like, they're probably maybe more balanced. Boston is probably, in that hybrid of maybe a little bit of step below the Blue Jays. And then Tampa's a pain in the ass. They're just going to continue to scratch and claw. The Orioles now, the strength, they're starting to become more well-rounded. Now, I think they do need one more bullpen arm on top of this, Kev. We hadn't talked about that. I think they need one more quality arm. But here's another thought. Just hear me out, Kev. The Orioles get 2 starters. Tyler Wells could have the flexibility to go to the pen. And then that's a comfortable situation. So I don't know. That's just something I wanted to see. But man, this has been nuts. This has been nuts.
This is awesome. I wonder if we were around for the Chris Davis contract, what that stream would have been like. Because this is second in terms of total money, right? Because Davis was 1, Alonso's 2. So I know it's AAV, it's bigger for Alonso because that was 7 versus 5. But man, and I mean, yeah, and they're definitely like, if we're sitting here in February talking about how the Orioles didn't make another move, I'd be floored. I think they're still in the market for guys. They're still gonna be in play, and they are, like we've seen the reports. So couple of starters, you bring back, and like at this point, like, do you expect Ryan them to re-sign any of their guys, like Eflin, Sagano, like anyone who's on the free agent market right now from last year's team? Or do you think that if they bring back anybody, is it I don't even know who it would be.
Wait, so you're saying for the Orioles who they'd bring back?
Yeah.
The roster?
Like, do you think there's anybody they'd bring back from last year's team?
I think they'd keep it open for, I think Albert Suarez, they'll keep the door open. You have a long guy. I think it depends on what they do in the trade market, to be honest.
Yeah.
What do you not accomplish with, I think what they're finally doing here, Kev, is they're saying we can't, if we have a guy we want, we can't miss out. And then we'll go to the secondary market. Because here's another thing, and this is shout out you because you wanted this pitcher last year. There's going to be a player that no one wants, or like that people go like, why did we give that money to this player? Because I mentioned earlier that I think there was maybe 10 pitchers last year that had a sub 3 ERA in baseball last year. And everyone wants the sexy name. They want the big pitcher. Sometimes it's the one that signs a solid contract but overplays his contract. That last year's guy was Nick Pivetta, Kev. That was your guy that you wanted.
Yes,
it was like what, 4 years, 56 million or something like that?
It was a good deal for the Padres.
So that guy's going to be available, but if you want someone now that this market's picking up, you have to make the move. So I think the Orioles, with any of those guys that they let walk or test the market, they're going to be available in a couple weeks. They might be available next month. So, but Pete Alonso would not. Ranger Suarez will not. I would even, the trading part, you could wait, but then you get the other teams that are holding it. They could hold the leverage. It gets higher. Make the move if you want it.
Yeah.
So I think the trade and the free agent move here, I wouldn't be surprised if the Orioles make these two moves within this next week.
Yeah. And it's an interesting conversation with the trade too, because obviously if you make a move now, well, I guess it depends because teams are going to start to get desperate if they miss out on guys or if they really need a certain position and there's another guy in the market. But obviously with the Corbin trade, when it happened, if they had made that deal the day before the trade deadline or deadline day, that it would have cost them a whole heck of a lot more than what they gave up because they're competing against all these other teams. And, there's an actual set deadline. But when you make a move here, let's just say they do trade for Mackenzie Gore. I'll just use him as the example. If they traded for him before the new year, as opposed to, at the deadline saying we really need a frontline starter, we need to bring in a guy for the second part of this season. Let's go get him. I mean, the package the Orioles would have to give up would be substantially more than it would be now. Doesn't mean you're not competing with other teams, especially when there are teams in the mix and other teams need starters. And, the value of a high leverage starter that can eat innings. And, I know the thing with Cabrera, for example, is the health. But when you have an opportunity to do that, and maybe get a guy at not a fraction of the cost because it's still going to cost. If they traded for Gore or Cabrera, it's going to cost them a decent amount, but less compared to if they just tried to roll with what they had, which they should not do in the first place. But I'm just saying, if they decided to make a couple of mid-tier arm moves, then wait. There's no reason to wait to do this stuff. You have a plan, you have a clear roster hole, and you have the talent to go out there and get a guy. And we've said this for a long time where I think that the Orioles, maybe less so now because guys have been promoted in the farm system. If they wanted to move off of some of their certain high-end prospects, and they still can, but the Orioles still, in my opinion, can go prospect for prospect with a lot of these teams. And especially when you now have the leverage to, if Kobe Mayo's in that conversation or, some of the guys he got back in those trades, we talked about it, where when those trades happened during the deadline, we talked about how, it's probably unrealistic that every one of these prospects that the Orioles just got at the deadline, which was 30 million, all those prospects are probably not going to be with the team within the next year or two because some of them will probably be in trades or other things will happen. And I think that, while I'm really excited about a lot of those young guys that the Orioles got, if they wanted a JWB or something, or another one of those guys, and that's the final piece for a team to go get a guy like Mackenzie Gore, well, that's one of the reasons I think why you made those moves. Is not just for the development and having a good farm system and replenishing it, but to be able to go out there and say, hey, we can give you a Kobe Mayo or a Ryan Mountcastle or one of these veteran or young up-and-coming guys, but if you need a prospect or two, well, we just got a billion of them, and we have a replenished farm system now, and that is making your farm system work for you and helping this year's team while lessening the blow of losing a top guy or, someone who is in that top 30 or whatnot because you just got so many young guys back.
Yeah, and here's the reality. Not all prospects are going to become stars. And earlier on with the Orioles, you draft guys, you have talent, you have the opportunity to see who can be a star, but at some point they lose value. And I think we've seen that the last couple of years of they can lose some value. And now you need to win. And back in the day, Kev, when you developed your minor league team, when you developed it properly, if you weren't good enough or not good enough, if there wasn't a spot for you in the bigs, but you were good enough to be in the big leagues, you would get traded somewhere else. And that was the system. The great teams would build up their farm system, identify that guy's not going to be in the big leagues for this team. They're going to get the value then. And sometimes it's going to work out and sometimes it's not. And that's okay. Like it's okay. You got to make decisions and you got to live with them. And for the Orioles, I think that they're getting to that point now that last year was the final year to see what they had with some of these guys in their development, and now they're moving forward. And the other part here, what I love is the guys like Jackson Holliday. Last year, Kevin, the motto was they will go as far as this young core takes them. And the young core, given the injuries, the pitching woes and injuries, they weren't ready to lead. And right now, what I love is they still don't have to. You know, Pete Alonso and Gunnar Henderson and Taylor Ward and Jordan Westberg, they've proven they're ready. And Adley Rutschman, if he's healthy, he's ready. But then you can allow the development properly for Jackson Holliday, for Sam Basayo, for Colton Cowser to not have to feel like they have to be the guy. They can then figure out how to be one of the big leaguers. And I think that that's really going to help the psyche. When you look around at the great teams, Philly, they know who a lot of their lineup is. They have even in their starting rotation right now, when they bring up some of their studs, those guys aren't going to ask to be the saviors. The Blue Jays signed Dylan Cease and they have Trey Savage, but Trey Savage doesn't have to be the guy. He's a dude, but he doesn't have to be. And I think that's really helpful. Really, Kev, when you get 3 years in the bigs, I think I remember my uncle telling me this, was you get 3 years, you finally get comfortable. For guys that like you're not the superstars, you're trying to figure out if you're a big leaguer. And I've talked to Dean Kramer about this. Once you realize that you belong is when you take the next step. And they can say all they want, Kev, oh, I know I belong. But until you do it and you prove it, it's hard to get comfortable that you're going to be there. And now I think that we're going to start to see a little bit more of that too. And the pressure's off. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here moving forward.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Zach, are you there?
No, his camera's not on. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that's why I didn't bring you on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I went back to driving. So you guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to kind of, I know it was a conversation ago, I guess, at this point, but when the Orioles made these deals at the deadline, Kevin and Ryan, we all talked about something that I felt like the Orioles the first time around with Mike Elias didn't do a great job of, except for the Corbin Burnes trade, was making your farm system work for you. Because prospects can help your team in a lot of ways. And I think maybe after the Burnes trade, maybe after this, you saw, okay, we saw the peak at 101 wins. We've been going downhill since then. I do think they're going to be more open, and I think you have to be. Prospects are what they are. They're prospects. They're mystery boxes. Okay, so you trade away 2 pitchers that could be anything. Yeah, at best case, that lefty pitcher could be Mackenzie Gore. So why not just go get Mackenzie Gore? So I think that's a big thing.
Yep, I hear his point loud and clear. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We'll get.
Oh no, he was.
Oh, can you not hear me?
No, Zach was coming through fine.
Oh, I couldn't hear anything then.
Wow, Ryan.
Is he talking right now?
Jeez.
Yes.
Yeah, he's talking right now.
Ryan, can you not hear me? Can people in the chat hear me?
I can hear him. Can you not hear him, Ryan? Oh.
No.
All right. Well, chat. Can you hear Zach?
All right, I'm gonna.
Yeah. All right. People say that they can hear you, Zach. So
I'll leave. I'll be back.
Okay.
I don't think we've ever had that. I've never had.
I think he just heard you, and then he left by accident.
Yeah. Okay. But Kevin, just real fast, what we've talked about, these are the opportunities that the Orioles now have to let this farm system that you replenish, that you catapulted back into the top end of the league, let them work for you. You got 30 top, your top 30 prospects. Everyone wants to rank them. Everyone wants to go, okay, these are the guys that can be the future of your team, all of that. Top 100 prospects don't pan out all the time. If you're a top 100 prospect, let's look at the top 100 right now. Probably 25 to 30 will end up being good big leaguers. It's just the fact. So if you have that ability to get rid of guys and give them to teams that are not interested or do not have the horses to win at the moment, but they want to rebuild, they want to look towards the future, they're going to be willing to take the risk that some of these guys maybe don't pan out the way that you hope, because it's a lottery ticket for them. It's like the Orioles. They got 6 lottery tickets for Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano. So now use those tickets that you got and give a few to another team and get a proven commodity, because the focus for the Baltimore Orioles right now, they are proving, is for the 2026 season. They want to win in 2026. So go make a move. And if there's a guy available, whether that's Cabrera, whether that's Gore, that you sit and go, okay, there's a few prospects that maybe help us in 2028, but Mackenzie Gore helps us in 2026. You go get the guy that helped you in 2026.
Yeah. And you still get to keep a couple of lottery tickets, by the way. It's not like you're giving them all away. Yeah, that's a big thing. It's like
I think I was going to say real fast. I think between the draft and deadline, it was the Orioles added 39 prospects. There's only 26 guys on the roster. You gotta, not all of them are making it. So use them. And like you said, Kevin.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's Zach.
Hey, give me Kevin. Hold down the fort for a second. I'm getting a call. I got to take.
Okay. All right. We will hold it down for you.
Hold on.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Is like, you have all of these prospects, and like when we were talking about the rebuilding years for the Orioles, like that's great. As many swings as you can get, draft, to trade guys away for prospects, and we always thought that the year that they had last year was the retooling year, right? There's no reason to why would you rebuild and trade guys away? It's about, you have some of these guys who are either free agents or in, the case of like Ramon Laureano and, some of those, I think Arias as well, like maybe a year left of control after that, where the Orioles said, like, look, we don't view these guys as a part of our future or the deals and the packages we're getting for them. We don't want to pass them up. And so when you acquire that and you bring in so many prospects to your system, like you said, Zach, only 26 spots on the roster, only, 9 spots in a lineup, 5 spots technically in a rotation, but obviously, teams run more than that and have other arms that they have. So while it's important to still have guys in your system, while it's important to have swings, especially as the Orioles are going to have to start shelling out big money and will continue to have to do so for guys like Gunnar and, all the guys that they're going to have to sign to extensions. Yeah, it's important that you continue to add to your farm system and replenish it. But at the same time, kind of like what we've been talking about for the last couple of seasons, is almost like there are only so many spots. And so you have to also, like when we were talking about Mountcastle versus, Kobe Mayo, and that was a conversation that, like, okay, is a veteran going to win out here, or is Mayo going to win out? You probably can't have both, right? They're going to have to make some tough decisions on some of these guys of like, and they have, right? Like they moved off of they chose Jordan Westburg over Joey Ortiz, and that was the right decision for them. But it's like, there are only so many spots, only so many reps, only so many at-bats for guys. And when you have that clear hole to say, all right, we have this need in our rotation for a frontline guy, multiple arms in the rotation, and you have this surplus of prospects, you have a surplus of first basemen that now there's not going to be nearly enough room for one of them, let alone both of them. You bring in Taylor Ward to help you as well. Like the spots start to dwindle. And with that, is it worth just keeping a guy like Mountcastle on the bench for most of the season and have him be like a platoon guy or be an every fifth day guy or, whatever it may be with him, or for Mayo, like, is that same conversation? No. And that's not going to make the player happy either. So at the end of the day, like, this to me is a great start, because honestly, not only do they get a guy who hit almost 40 homers last year, drove in all these runs, and I think can really help them as veteran presence, but it opens them up, Zach, to a lot more moves and frees them up. And again, like you said, like, I like Kobe, and I think that, he has a bright future ahead of him, but there were those contention points over the past couple of years of them not bringing him up and then sending him back down and bringing him back up and stuff. And like, finally, when he got the opportunity of consistent at bats, we saw who he can be. But now we're kind of back in that conversation again of like, there probably aren't going to be consistent at bats for Kobe anymore. And, they probably have to have a conversation about like, and it's to a lesser extent for Heston too. And I know like Heston doesn't like, the value right now for Heston is not what Kobe's is. And, it's been an unfortunate situation, but it's like for some of these guys who clearly just unfortunately don't have spots for you anymore. What do you do with those guys? Do you keep them in your system, or do you move off of them for players that can help you now? And I think while Heston's value probably doesn't make a lot of sense to move him, just because I'm not sure what you can even get for him at this point. For Kobe, I think that would probably be your headliner in a deal for a guy like a Cabrera or a Gore or someone like that.
Yeah, I agree. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. It's at this point, I mean, Kevin, this is a great problem to have. You have a lot of talented players on your team at one position, and kind of like we said with the prospects, make them work for you. Make this a positive, not a negative. Don't try to fit everyone into this lineup. Kobe Mayo, yes, did he have the greatest start at the beginning?
No.
But so many players struggle. At the end, he still hit 10 home runs. Like, I think people kind of forget that. Like, he willed his way to 10 home runs. And I think that is, there's something to be said about that. I think he is a guy that people are going to want. He is high level prospect. He is a high end upside. I think Kobe Mayo, any rebuilding team, if you need a first baseman, he's a guy. If you're a contending team who needs a first baseman, might want Ryan Mountcastle. So I agree. I think that this is a good situation to have. No, it is not, the easiest situation, because you got to move someone. But at the end of the day, having a lot of talent is a great situation to have, and I would much rather have that than, especially with these injuries, what it felt like for part of the season where they were trying to scrap anything. I mean, we're on our seventh catcher, everything's going wrong. So, hey, if you can make something happen, go get a frontline guy, go get a top-end guy. Heck, maybe Mountcastle, if you choose to trade him, maybe he gets you a nice reliever. Mountcastle plus a prospect gets you a nice reliever. There are ways to continue to build this team. I don't think the Orioles are done. It's being reported the Orioles aren't done. We're seeing a lot of things saying, hey, they're still talking to Framber. They're still open in the top end of the pitching market. The Orioles are going for it. And at the end of the day, we will see where the chips fall, after 162 games this season. But right now, when you are talking about the teams that are the biggest winners through, what is today, December 11th, I believe?
10, yeah.
If you're talking about, yes. If you are, it's 10?
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay, yes, through December 10th. Through December 10th, when you look at the biggest winners of the MLB offseason, Orioles have to be top three. Just so far. Now, there's still move to be done. Job's not finished. But the Orioles are doing what they said they were going to do. And at the end of the day, that's all you can really ask for and hope for.
Yep, it is. And to put a bow on this, like I said, I understand, how people have felt over time. When you get involved in the baseball world, you realize how damn hard it is to win. And some of the big markets make it look easy, But even the Yankees, who spend a lot, it's been 16 years since the Yankees won a world championship. They've won one world championship since 2000 and what? 2000, right? Yeah. When they had that bender of a stretch, 2000 they won. They lost in 2001 in the World Series, lost in 2003 to the Marlins, I believe. And then 2009 rolls around, they win. So what? They have one championship in 25 years, and that's the Yankees. The Dodgers up until COVID, the Dodgers weren't winning championships. Now, look, they're spending a ton of money. But the point that I'm trying to make is winning's hard. And I know for Orioles fans, you haven't experienced enough winning in lifetimes. 42 years since the Orioles have been to a World Series championship or been to a World Series, let alone had a championship. You haven't won a playoff game since this front office has taken over. It's been 10 years since you won a postseason game. It's all understandable, but also recognizing while there was missed opportunities in 2025, I hope that people can give credit, because as much as people want to get on Mike Elias, and no general manager, no team is perfect. But one thing that I've admired watching it and knowing Mike, he said to himself, hey, we screwed up. What do I need to do? I'm not going to get burned again. And so far, he's not. And if the Orioles go out and stink it up next year, it hasn't been because they haven't been aggressive so far in this offseason. I don't believe they're done, Zach and Kevin. I think they're far from done. And I think if you're looking at, is this a new age, finally saying, is this a new age in Baltimore baseball? Yes. The answer is yes. And we have the poll because, guys, I gotta make some runs here to finish out the poll on the main one. What would be a Mike Elias' next move? What?
Yeah, we can do the poll and then wrap up if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, so Mike Elias' next move, the options: trade for a starter, sign Framber, sign Ranger, or nothing. 56% of you that have voted said that the trade's coming. And you know what, guys? I feel pretty confident saying it's not a matter of if the trade is coming, it's when. The Orioles will make a trade. They will go out there and get one, and it will be a pitcher. They will go out and get one guy. I still think if I had a choice of it, I go and get Mackenzie Gore, but Edward Cabrera, that dude's upside is legit. Sinker pitcher, has some plus stuff. Obviously, injury worry, but everyone gets injured nowadays. But time will tell. It should be great. And it's also great if you guys hit the like and subscribe button. So we have the Ryan Ripken Show and Kevin and Zach React. So Ryan Ripken Show, part of Ryan Ripken Media, same with Kevin and Zach React. Look, during the year, Ryan Ripken Show, we're going to be live Monday through Friday. We cover football. So on later shows, Zach might be on talking about the Ravens and the NFL because it's still going on. But don't worry. We're backboned into baseball here on our media network here. And then Kevin and Zach React specifically come March 30th or whenever the regular season starts, Kevin and Zach on Kevin and Zach React, these two, I don't even know how to describe you guys properly, but these guys go live for every 162 for every Orioles game. Ryan Ripken Show, we're going to cover a lot of baseball. These two guys, for the fans of the Orioles, this is the place you need to subscribe to. So subscribe to them, join the memberships, helps us because we like doing this, but we're committed to this. So really great day. Really great day for everyone, especially if you're a Baltimore. And if you're a baseball fan, this is freaking great. But Kevin, I'll start with you. Final words, and then Zach, you'll get the last word.
Yeah, this is exciting. And, you're talking about new era and turning the page and whatnot. But again, I think this sets a precedent both for the present and for the future for this team where, you've added a bunch of power to your lineup. We know that they needed that. A bunch of guys who can drive in runs, or I guess a couple of guys who can drive in runs. And now you have an opportunity as this move opens up the ability for you to make that trade that you're talking about, Ryan, to go out there and maybe sign another guy because we know you can never have enough arms. But after hearing their name linked to literally everybody, and I know you guys being down there, I'm sure you heard every single moment you were there about, the Orioles this and the Orioles that. They miss out on Schwarber, but as you talked about last night, Philly was the destination for him if he could get the money in the deal. And so the Orioles offer the deal, it goes back to Philly, whatnot. But like you mentioned, this was a different situation. The Orioles took advantage of a Mets mistake by burning that bridge and get a guy they prime away from the AL East rival, or at least one of the AL East rivals that you're looking at this season. And I mean, you peruse on social media right now, Mets fans are livid, but also Red Sox fans are livid. And what's coming out about the Red Sox is that their deal was for less money average and for less years as well. So the Orioles, they met the moment here. Mike Elias met the moment here. And now with adding Ward and adding Alonso, two great moves. But as we've talked about, if you can get in a frontline starter and another guy, maybe another reliever or two, your potential for this season looks really, really good. So this is an awesome day for Baltimore sports, for Orioles baseball, and can't wait to see Pete hit some dingers this year at Camden Yards.
Zach, final thought.
Listen, this cannot be the only move. I don't think it will be the only move. But Baltimore fans, I think you can relate. I have spent so many years as the bridesmaid, just feeling like you are always finishing second. The Orioles are in on this guy. The Orioles made an offer to this guy. The Orioles tried to trade for this guy, and it never came to fruition. It was always after the fact. Yesterday, the exact same thing. Orioles had the best offer. Kyle Schwarber goes elsewhere to return to Philly. For today, yes, there is still more to be done. This team still has some holes in it that need to be fixed. Season's going to come up fast, but for the next 24 hours, enjoy being the bride. Enjoy winning, because this is something that does not happen often, especially in Baltimore, the second biggest contract ever given out. So I would assume with the first being Chris Davis, the first one not being a re-signing. Enjoy it. This is fun. I enjoy doing these streams. These are a lot more fun than going live to talk about how the Orioles missed out on someone. So enjoy it for today, and let's see what happens. As the Joker would say, and here we go.
Personally, I'd rather if we just trade everyone away. It's over. Season's over before it began, right? That's more fun. Just kidding. It's a lot more enjoyable to smile for a day than it is to agonize. But I do understand, why do people agonize and the emotions are so high? People love their teams. People love the Baltimore Orioles. Any fan base, you're passionate because you love it. And for Baltimore fans, you love it so much and you feel like you just want to see this team have success. Well, right now, they're on the right step here going into 2026. Wrapping it up, the Birds, Pete Alonso, Baltimore Orioles. Hey, how you doing? 5 years, 155. He's coming to Baltimore. The Polar Plunge.
Yeah.
I should say the Polar Bear is plunging to Camden Yards this next spring and summer. So that's all we got for
real fast, Kevin.
What?
I was going to say real fast, Kevin, can you remind me who was my Oriole of the day yesterday?
It was Pete Alonso.
Said future Oriole Pete Alonso. Speaking into existence, baby. Take us out of here, Ryan.
All right, guys. Hey, have a day, have a night. Appreciate you guys. Hit that like and subscribe button. I know we'll have to talk about some other guys like Kyle Tucker in the future, but for now, be good, be safe, and yeah. See you later. I don't have the music.